Okay, so when you hear the phrase Cold War, you're probably picturing spies in Cold War-era Berlin, right? Nuclear submarines, that kind of thing. But what if I told you that a brand new one is heating up right now, and it's all centered on this massive frozen island? Yeah, let's get into it.
And this whole thing just exploded into the open with this incredibly blunt statement from former President Donald Trump. His team wasn't just kinda interested in Greenland, they were dead serious about getting it. This wasn't some off-the-cuff remark, it was a shot across the bow that sent ripples through the entire world.
So that brings us to the big question, the mystery we're going to unpack here. What on earth is so special about this huge, seemingly empty island of ice that has the US, Russia, and China all scrambling for a piece of it? The answer is way more complicated and honestly way more important than you probably think.
To really get why everyone wants it, you first have to understand what it even is. So let's get our bearings on Greenland, because this place is a land of some pretty wild contradictions.
First off, you just have to appreciate the scale of this place. It is immense. We're talking about the single largest island on the planet. I mean, it's bigger than Mexico, bigger than Saudi Arabia. It's a true giant.
But here's the first major catch. A whopping 80% of that enormous landmass is completely buried under an ice sheet that's up to 2 kilometers thick in some places. For literally centuries, this has made it seem like, just a barren, useless wasteland.
And that brings us to the second paradox. Even though it's the size of a subcontinent, its entire population is just 57,000 people. That's it. That's like the size of a small town. So again, why is there such intense global interest in a place with way more ice than people?
And this isn't some new thing. The United States has been trying to get its hands on Greenland for over 100 years. I mean, right after they bought Alaska back in 1867, they were already eyeing it. They tried again in 1910. And then in 1946, President Truman offered Denmark what would be over $1 billion today in solid gold. So yeah, this is a very old, very deep strategic ambition.
All right, so let's peel back the first layer of this mystery. Because long before anyone was talking about rare minerals or shipping lanes, Greenland was, and still is, an absolutely critical piece on the global military chessboard.
You know the saying, location, location, location. Well, geopolitically, Greenland is the ultimate piece of real estate. It sits right in the middle of the Arctic, smack dab between the United States and Russia. From a military point of view, whoever has a strong foothold in Greenland basically controls the entire top of the world.
And sitting on Greenland is one of America's most vital defense systems, this upgraded early warning radar. Look, if Russia ever decided to launch an ICBM at North America, the shortest flight path is right over the North Pole. This radar, it's the tripwire. It's the system that would give the US those first few absolutely precious minutes of warning. It's that important. Which leads to the obvious question, right? You're probably thinking, okay, hold on. The US military is already there, they've got a huge base. So, why the sudden panic? Why the big push for total control now?
Well, the wild card here is the people of Greenland themselves. There's a really strong and growing movement for independence from Denmark. And from Washington's point of view, that's a huge risk. They're worried an independent Greenland might ask the US military to pack up and leave. Or maybe just decide to charge them an absolutely insane amount of rent for that critical radar base. For the Pentagon, that kind of uncertainty is just not an option.
But believe it or not, the military strategy, that's only half the story. Now we get to the second part, which is arguably even more valuable. The unbelievable treasure trove of resources that are locked away under all that ice.
To really get what's at stake, you have to understand this. Right now, China has a virtual chokehold on what are called rare earth elements. They control something like 90% of the world's supply, and these are the minerals that make basically all of our modern technology work.
And wouldn't you know it, geological surveys are showing that Greenland is sitting on one of the biggest untapped stashes of these exact same minerals anywhere on Earth. We're talking about gallium for AI chips and radar, neodymium for electric car motors and wind turbines, uranium for nuclear power, silicon for semiconductors, you name it. The bottom line is, Greenland could hold the key to breaking China's monopoly on the tech of the future.
Oh, and if that wasn't enough, on top of all those minerals, surveys estimate there are at least 31 billion barrels of oil just in the northeast corner of the island alone. The potential fossil fuel wealth is just staggering.
So we've got military position. We've got a treasure chest of resources. But there's a third reason, and honestly, this one could be the biggest game changer of them all. It has the power to completely redraw the map of global trade as we know it.
For all of human history, the Arctic has just been this impassable block of ice. But as the planet warms up, the ice is melting, and a new shipping lane is opening up, the Northwest Passage. Just look at these numbers. A ship going from, say, China to London can shave off 9,000 kilometers and 15 days of travel time by taking this new route instead of going through the Suez Canal. We're talking millions of dollars in saved fuel on every single trip.
And where is Greenland? It's sitting right at the eastern entrance, the front door of this new maritime superhighway. Controlling Greenland means you control who gets to use this shortcut. It's basically like owning the land for the most valuable toll booth in the history of the world. Whoever controls this passage has enormous leverage over global trade.
Okay, so now we know why. It's the perfect storm. A critical strategic location, unimaginable mineral wealth, and control over a brand new global trade route. But what would actually happen if the United States decided to force the issue? Well, the potential fallout is pretty terrifying. For starters, it could literally mean the end of NATO. See, Greenland is part of Denmark, a founding member of the alliance. The whole idea of NATO is that an attack on one is an attack on all. If the US just seizes territory from an ally, the entire thing could just collapse. It would shatter the trust between America and Europe, cause unbelievable environmental damage from a rush to mine everything, and of course, it would completely erase the right of the Greenlandic people to determine their own future.
But maybe the scariest part of all is the precedent this would set. It would signal a return to a really dark chapter of history, a world where powerful countries feel like they have the right to just take whatever they want from smaller ones by force. That is a recipe for absolute global chaos.
You see, the melting ice in the Arctic isn't just opening up new shipping lanes. It's opening up a whole new chapter in world history. And the choices that are made about Greenland in the next few years won't just impact the 57,000 people who live there. They are going to define the global power balance for the next century.
Which leaves us with this final, really chilling question. Is the future of the Arctic going to be a story of global cooperation as we all face a changing planet together? Or is the fight for Greenland's ice, its minerals, and its location going to be the flashpoint for the next world war? Only time is going to tell.